Wolverine issue 1 sees Logan heavily injured but alive, slowly healing as he learns that he was the one who killed Jean Grey, Kid Omega and Domino. He knows he couldn't have killed them himself and soon finds tracks leading away from the bodies. So popping his claws, Wolverine trudges through the heavy snow to find answers. 5 days before on Krakoa, some children play hide and seek with Logan when Jean arrives, using her powers to pull Logan from the dense jungle, knowing he always makes the game too hard for them. Logan knows that they wouldn't have found him if not for Jean, who he learns is there to tell him there is something happening at Hellfire Bay that needs his attention. On the bay, Catherine loads up the Marauder's ship as Logan arrives for his booze shipment. Logan pretends that he wasn't playing hide and seek, but Kitty already knows what he was doing, pulling her mentor on board where they both share a drink of Logan's cheap liquor. Kitty is happy to learn that Logan is happy and found a place on Krakoa, but Logan tells her to stop getting sappy, knowing that he was brought there for a reason, and Kitty might be in some trouble. Kitty tells him that somehow they are losing some of their petal shipments at their production facilities. She says at these facilities, sometimes the Krakoan flower petals go missing and they don't know who is taking them, but she knows it's not for anything good. In Baltimore, CIA agent Jeff Bannister pulls rank at a drug lab murder, telling the detective in charge that he was called in because of the suspected cartel-on-cartel violence. He notes how the killings were all self-inflicted as he finds a strange green powder, which he thinks is flower pollen. The next day, Logan is briefed by Sage about the flower petals, which she equates to the skin of Krakoa, and there is no way of tracking them. She can, however, determine where the stolen shipment might be headed, knowing it's somewhere that is experiencing winter and who has refused the treaties along with regional pollen counts, narrowing the search down to Russia. Suiting up, Wolverine calls in X-Force, using Gateway to teleport them into Russia so they don't have to use the Krakoan gates that have been planted, as the Russian military have them covered. Back in Baltimore, Jeff is told by Meredith Milley that tests were run on the green powder, learning that it is the byproduct of a Krakoan petal, which are being sold on the street as the drug pollen, which makes the user twice as smart and just as stronger. Jeff says that he could use some of that right now, but his joke doesn't really land with Meredith. She gives him his files, imploring Jeff use the digital version next time, but the man says that he hates staring at screens. Soon Jeff learns that his daughter is awake, so he goes to see her, telling her that the bad guys he's stopping this time are ones stealing the special drugs needed to cure her of her cancer. His daughter knows that because of this, it's making her father very angry. The next day, X-Force busts up a cult meeting, finding their stealth option wasn't really any good. They soon learn the cult is called the Order of X, and they worship mutants, and as the team watch on, the cult partakes in communion, eating the pollen and attacking the mutants, ripping at Kid Omega like wild animals. The rest of the team learn from Jean's probing that the cult think that if they take enough pollen, they will become mutant-human hybrids and gain access to Krakoa. X-Force begin ripping through the cult, but soon, however, the cult members begin burning up thanks to the pollen, which burns the bodies from the inside out. The next day, Logan goes to see the Russian mob, giving them a duffel filled with one of the cult corpses, hoping they know about the Order of X. The mob boss doesn't want to deal with Logan, but after he beats up the man's guards, Logan says that he knows the boss sold the Order of X the dope that had pollen cut into it, wanting to know where he got the flowers from. Logan learns that it was from a woman named the Pale Girl, who works for the flower cartel and will sell to the mob if they work for her, taking 80% of their hauls. She also has the power to make people do things they don't want to do, like how she made the boss cook his own eyeball with his lighter. Later, as Logan reports to Beast about the pollen and the drug war that's brewing, Jeff reports to his team, having tracked the pollen drug around the world, knowing that if the mutants control the trade on their own drugs, what's to say they don't control the black market side of that as well, meaning they need to pose as buyers and buy something from the flower cartel. In the present, Logan tracks his team's killer through the snow, soon spying something through the heavy winds, a pale girl. He pops his claws and confronts her as she disappears, and Jeff Bannister and his team arrive, wondering who Logan is and what Logan is shouting about doing. On Krakoa, Wolverine uses the ever-changing island as his danger room, racing across the landscape and knowing that the island isn't the only one changing, as enemies have become allies and mutants trying to end the world are now trying to save it. Soon he comes to a gateway he sees people running away from, soon learning what they are scared of as Omega Red comes through, covered in blood.
Omega wants diplomatic immunity, but Wolverine attacks him when he refuses to leave. Logan's attack, however, is stopped by Magneto, who tells him Omega Red is welcome on Krakoa, just like all mutants. Eric reassures Logan that the blood-soaking Omega isn't actually his, as the villain falls unconscious. Still in control of Wolverine, Eric throws him through the gateway, wanting to know what is waiting for them on the other side. Logan winds up in Paris, hearing sirens coming and seeing a crashed car covered in blood. In the trunk he finds a pile of corpses, making Logan know that Red's immunity isn't happening. Suddenly one of the corpses comes alive, saying Logan is like Red, but as the authorities arrive, Logan says that he's nothing like that sick villain. In the Krakoan prison, Dr. Reyes says that despite Omega Red's armor and powers, someone was able to tear right through him. Eric wants him healed, but the arriving Logan says that no amount of healing will fix Omega's mind. Eric says that Omega is a mutant and needs help, but Logan thinks Xavier wouldn't do this. Eric says that Charles isn't there and maybe Logan should take a page from his book and offer up some niceties. Logan knows that Omega is a psycho and there are kids on the island, kids who would be put in danger if he was allowed to live there. But Eric says that if something were to happen, then Red would be punished and resurrection would be made available to his victims. Logan doesn't care since immortality doesn't erase trauma and he's meant to keep them all safe. Eric reminds them that they are like the CIA, which at more than one point in history has worked with the bad guys, and as Logan is on X-Force, it's his job to neutralize the problems. Logan tells him about the corpses, but Eric knows that they don't have the whole story, so Omega Red will remain in the cell while Logan finds out what he's done. Logan confronts Omega, who wonders why Logan would even bother interrogating him when his mind is already made up about the mutant. Omega lets on that there is someone out there worse than him and he didn't kill the people in the car, telling Logan that while he rests up, he should probably go to King Obelix in Paris. Logan heads to the Latin Quarter of Paris, finding the club Omega mentioned when he is approached by a hooded woman, whom he invites into the club for a drink after insulting her. The woman declines as he enters the very obvious vampire coven. As Logan drinks his absinthe, he's surrounded by the vampires, realizing his drink was spiked as he is knocked unconscious. Soon he awakens, having been tied upside down and about to have his blood drained. Logan has some of his blood taken, but he pops his claws, killing one of the vampires before freeing his arms. Suddenly, the woman from before arrives, shooting the vampires with a sunlight cannon. The woman reveals that she is a vampire hunter who doesn't bother cutting down Logan as she moves deeper into the coven, looking to finish off the rest of the vampires. Later on Krakoa, Omega says how could he have murdered those people when they were already dead, thanks to them being all vampires. He defends his actions, telling Logan that the people were suffering in their vampiric transition and he was just easing their pain. As Omega continues to talk with Logan, one of the vampires that were in the trunk awakens in a Paris morgue, killing the mortician. Omega says that he has been feeding on animals lately, wondering if maybe he could thrive on Krakoa since it gives the mutants whatever they want. Logan doesn't think he's cured, so Omega tells him the story of St. Julian, a man responsible for his parents' death, foretold to him by a dying stag. Julian escaped his parents for fear he would kill them, but soon they found him in their old age. But he mistook their sudden appearance in his house as his wife cheating on him, so he killed his parents, fulfilling the prophecy. Omega tells him that he should head back to Paris, so Logan does, heading to the Church of St. Julian, where he meets the vampire hunter again, learning her name is Louise and she works for the Night Guard, who are devoted to fighting the vampire nation. As Louise gathers her weapons, she knows Wolverine can help her, even offering her weapons to him, but Wolverine pops his claws saying that he has it covered. Heading to the Paris catacombs, they begin to track the vampire nation, but soon they trigger a trap, falling into a pit where Louise is grabbed by Logan before they hit the jagged spiked bones. Vampires soon arrive, so Louise battles them with her vampire-killing weaponry while Logan heals. Louise is soon captured by the vampires, who suggest Logan back down since they will release her if he gives them what they want, his blood. The vampires' bloodlust gets the better of them as they charge Logan, swarming him and biting him. They soon flee, however, as Louise finds the bloody Logan, who has killed the vampire leader. Louise says that they shouldn't have left them like that, but Logan knows that they did on purpose since he killed the leader and they ran off. Louise knows that's not the leader, since the vampires have united, much like the mutants, who have Charles Xavier. Now they have Dracula back. Omega Red meanwhile heads to Paris, meeting with Dracula in broad daylight, learning Logan's blood did indeed work on the vampire, since now he isn't weak to sunlight. Omega reveals that he did his part, so now Vlad needs to do his, giving the mutant the carbonadium synthesizer, which will stop Red from having to kill to live. Vlad also reveals that a bomb has been placed in the device, which will blow it up should Red decide to turn on the vampire nation. Vlad tells him that instead he must prevent the mutants from interfering with his plans by joining them on Krakoa. However, he must obey Dracula. Wolverine issue 1 was a fantastic oversized first issue delivering 2 genre stories involving the famous mutant. I love the idea that we're getting a detective noir mystery regarding the Krakoan flowers being stolen and sold as drugs, a story we have seen hinted in the pages of X-Men, as well as a horror-themed vampire story that surprisingly has ties into the vampire stuff Jason Aaron was building in his Avengers run. That was a pleasant surprise to see that being brought back up, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Seeing a side of Logan that is content with his life on Krakoa now is really a great bit of character development. I like that he enjoys the island and thrives on an island that is constantly changing and testing his skills. I think that's really great. I'm looking forward to the continuation of both of these stories and how both threats will test Wolverine's skills and character. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.